I feel like the expectation for online training has shifted. And if we think about before the pandemic, during the pandemic, kind of in the heat of it, and now that depending on where you live, things are kind of going back to some semblance of normal. And if I use an analogy of a watermark, I can think about three phases for those timeframes. So if we think of before the pandemic, I think there was a pretty low watermark. So if you were standing at a beach, maybe the water came up to your ankles. And now, not for everybody, but I think collectively, people didn't do a lot of online training maybe, or weren't that sophisticated. Certainly there wasn't all the technology available then that there is now, and people weren't as aware of it. I do know that there are some organizations and some folks that I've talked to who absolutely nailed online design and delivery. So I don't want to discredit them, but I think as a whole, we collectively maybe didn't do a lot of online delivery and maybe weren't very good at it. So that's the low watermark. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody's moved to online. And I think the expectation then raised a little bit was that we could deliver materials online. So the watermarks maybe at our knees there, but people were still fairly patient with, I'm on mute, or as a facilitator, how do I share my screen? And I'm looking for where I click, or if it's a lot of just presenting at and maybe not as engaging as what it could have been. So I think there was a tolerance there for technology failing and maybe poorer or lower engaging design. Now, I think because we've been living and working online for so long, I think the watermark has risen even more. And if I can jump from my knees, maybe to my waist, or maybe even higher, that people aren't content anymore with boring presenting at training. They want that interactivity. They want that engagement. They expect technology to be smooth. They expect to move in and out of breakouts seamlessly. They expect the facilitator to know how to use that technology and have the technology be an extension of who they are and how they facilitate. So I think things have been shifting. I think the expectation is shifting. And as a result, those of us who are responsible for designing and delivering training to our employees, I think we need to meet where they're at and make sure that we stay ahead of that curve and are designing impactful programs that engage and teach. Thanks for listening.